Good morning, you lovely humans. We are now into spring and coming out of hibernation, and let me tell you, winter was a great reading season for me. So these are all the books that I read in winter and what I thought about them. Now, if you saw my video on Nirvana's Scentless Apprentice, you'll already know how I feel about this book. This is Perfume by Patrick Suskind, and what a book. Oh my god. This book is so bloody weird and disturbing, yet so entrancing and beautiful at the same time. If you haven't heard this story before, this is about a man in Paris who has the best nose in the whole world. Like, his sense of smell is so insane. And so he becomes a perfumer because he can recall every scent he's ever smelled and knows how to make an amazing perfume. But the one scent that he wants to bottle more than anything, unfortunately, is the scent of pure young girls. Just as creepy as it sounds, and a truly horrific story. I just need to know, though, how Suskind managed to lace these words with crack. I have not stopped thinking about this book since I put it down. I think this is going to be a lifelong favourite, and it's going to be really hard to top this. Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Malors. I feel like I was influenced to buy this. I couldn't go anywhere on the internet without seeing people talk about it. And look, I enjoyed it. It wasn't a horrible read, but I wouldn't really run to tell people to read it. I found the characters quite frustrating to get to know. They didn't really feel very grounded in reality, more like Gossip Girl characters with like a little sprinkle of manic pixie. I get the points that it was trying to make, but I really just didn't get anything out of it. And I felt like a lot of the plot devices were really useless, like that sugar glider plot. What the fuck? I did, however, find this quote to be particularly brilliant. When was the last time you were with a straight man, I'm talking any straight man, and he said something more interesting than what you were already thinking? And I live by that. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. A lot of people say that this is the B-Tech version of The Secret History. I would disagree. Yes, obviously there's a lot of influence on it, but it's not a straight copy, and I found it a story that I was able to dive into really easily. This may be counted as a crime, so brace yourselves, but I actually think I enjoyed it more than The Secret History. Something about the writing just captivated me in a different way. Did I understand all the Shakespeare stuff? No, I was thoroughly confused, but I found it enjoyable anyway. I don't want to diminish The Secret History because obviously it's an incredible piece of literature, but I found this to be more compelling, and I cared about the characters a bit more. I feel like in The Secret History, Francis is the only one that I maybe had a little bit of a soft spot for. If you're looking for a combination of dark academia and murder mystery, this one's for you. Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This is one of the best books I've read this year. I love this. I just adore it. I absolutely did not see it going the way that it did. It starts off as this very real and raw depiction of this couple who are trying to navigate one of the couple's trauma. They experience this traumatic event in a submarine, and they're both trying to figure out how to live now and the dynamic between them. But then as you discover more about what actually happened on this submarine, it slowly turns into this very subtle and haunting horror story, and it really sticks with you. It's incredibly tender in parts. I would think this would be a really hard read for anyone that's experienced watching their partner sort of slowly disappear from them, or what they knew as their partner. That heartbreak is depicted so devastatingly beautiful. It's got this gothic undertone with how eerie it is, and I think that's a huge part of why I loved it. Weird sapphic horror. What a genre. Assembly by Natasha Brown. This is kind of a bit of a fever dream of a read. It's very unhinged, but very thoughtful at the same time. It's a very short read, but you cover so much ground in that time. It's like a bit of a stream of consciousness writing style, and it follows this woman who's preparing for a fancy party at her boyfriend's parents' house in the countryside. What you get, though, is this gut-wrenchingly raw meditation on race, on misogyny, on colonialism, and on the point of life itself. It's brutal in a lot of ways, but there's a real beauty to that brutality. It's uncomfortable, but it's important. It's kind of hard to talk about this book without just reading massive quotes from it, because I've really never read writing like this. Natasha Brown obviously has an amazing gift, and I would definitely recommend reading this. Several people are typing by Calvin Kasulke. This is an unusual pick for me. It's not really my genre. I guess it would kind of fall under science fiction, which I just don't really pick up, but this was great. Anyone who has worked in an office environment that has then had to adjust to working from home arrangements will find this painfully relatable, and I mean painfully. Basically, our main character Gerald has somehow, and he doesn't know how, but has managed to upload his consciousness to the Slack chat, the work Slack chat, and he has to convince his co-workers that what he is saying is real so that they can get him out of it. And it's all written like in the style of a Slack chat. It's incredibly funny. It's like a tech horror version of The Office, or like a humorous episode of Black Mirror. And I just devoured it. I read the whole thing in one night. It was super easy. And yeah. And then there's this also like very sweet kind of revelations at the end about human connection. If you're in a reading slump and you need something quick and engaging and fun, this is definitely the book for you. The Stranger. I don't know why I was so put off reading this. No, I do. I think it was because of the amount of really like pretentious people that rave about this book kind of put me off, but I do get it now. It's fucking brilliant. These short pages will make you question your entire existence. It's so bizarre. This is a story of a man who just truly doesn't care. He holds nothing as sentimental, and we just follow him through a series of days and like his thought processes in making the actions that he makes. He acts on impulse, not reason. I really don't want to ruin the plot for anyone that hasn't read it. Like, just pick it up. You'll do it in half a day, but it will leave you questioning everything, particularly the way we think about death. Brutes by Diz Tate. This still has me completely floored. I think this is a kind of story that you keep thinking about, and the more you think about it and the more time passes, the more you sort of reveal the story. There's still stuff that I'm figuring out. This follows a group of young teenage girls living in Florida who become obsessed with the older girls in their community, and when one of them goes missing, they sort of enact this plan to find her. And you sort of go between when they were girls and when they are adults, still trying to figure out what happened, and you're trying to put the pieces together at the same time. If you're looking for an accurate description of a feral girlhood, this is perfect. I haven't read something that does it so much justice ever. I think that is such a unique time for girls, and the media depicts it in a really one-dimensional way. But we all know our brains at that age are really fucking weird. This book deals with trauma at a young age, and how at that age your mind makes up things as a way to deal with that, and then how that affects your adult life trying to figure that out. I think there were some places that could have been improved, but I think overall this was a fantastic read, and I really look forward to whatever Diz puts out next. And what a great name, Diz Tate. Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. Sorry, I just need a moment for this book. It's making me want to cry just thinking about experiencing this book. Caleb, you are one of the finest writers of our generation. Look, I'm not a romance girly, but this is so much more than a romance. It touches on race and identity and masculinity and police brutality and the way that trauma seeps into, the best parts of your life. There's incredible tributes to Black artists. It's just like a love letter. The way this book talks about what it is to love and what it is to be seen, no words. I knew this was going to be the book for me when in the first chapter they mentioned Could Heaven Ever Be Like This by Idris Muhammad. I just feel like me and Caleb would have mad chats. Again, this is one that I really just don't want to ruin for you, but please read it. I'm not kidding. This is coming into the grave with me. I'm being buried with this book. I'm dead serious. The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I've heard people saying both. I'm kind of scared to talk about this book because I hated it. I did not like this book one bit. It felt painful to read. It was like running the most boring marathon ever. And I don't DNF books. I have to finish them. But this was torture. Here's the thing. I get it. Okay? I get the point that was trying to be made. I get that we're meant to be seeing how these boys view these girls. But just like maybe just because I've had to live my whole life being reminded of how society views women, I'm kind of like, okay, and like we know this. And I understand that we're not meant to get a well-rounded view of these girls because of how one-dimensional these boys are seeing them, and we're seeing them through these boys' eyes. But I feel like you should be able to read around that and read the subtext to figure out the true characters of these girls. But I feel like it just wasn't possible with this book. This is written by a person who has no experience being a teenage girl, and it shows. I've seen a lot of people say that it's an insult to compare this book with Brutes by Diz Tate, but I would actually say that Brutes does well what this book doesn't. Also, I just hated the writing. It was so, like, if you've read this, you cannot tell me that you've read every single word, because I skipped whole pages because they were so unnecessary. Again, I get the point that it's trying to cleverly make, but I think too much thought was put into making it clever that it forgot about whether or not it would even be engaging to a reader. I do want to watch the movie soon though, because it's done by Sofia Coppola, and I've heard that she breathes a whole new depth into the girls. Last but not least, we have Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. This book is truly unhinged in the best ways. Basically, our main character and her husband are living with her mother-in-law, and when her mother-in-law decides to take her own life, it becomes clear in a little bit that she's not actually completely gone, and they are now in fact being haunted by this woman. And so the main character sets on a mission to get rid of her. This book is hilarious and reckless and actually really romantic in some parts. The flashback to when the couple first met was actually really cute. It gave me butterflies. Now trust me when I say this is a roller coaster to the very end. I was not expecting that ending. It was so shocking. I just couldn't help losing my mind. I was that clip of Trixie putting the little hat on.
You live! I live too! I live!
If you're in the mood for some weird, funny horror, pick this up. I promise you won't regret it. It is a riot. And that's it. 3 months of reading. Let me know your thoughts on any of the books that I've mentioned that you've read yourself, and a toast to the books that are currently sitting on my shelf waiting to have their spines cracked this spring. If this is our first time meeting, hi, I'm Honor, and if you would like to join our little gang here, we would love to have you, and all you have to do is subscribe. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you very soon.